The city of New Avalon was a dazzling jungle of steel and neon, its towering spires piercing the smog-choked sky. Below the glitz and corporate wealth, the slums stretched like an open wound, forgotten alleys where the poor and outcasts struggled to survive. Isaac Reese had lived in both worlds. Once a promising engineer, now a drifter, he spent his nights roaming the city's neglected streets, offering food to those in need. It was an unspoken penance for past mistakes, for the people he had failed. Tonight, as the rain drizzled over rusted dumpsters and flickering streetlights, Isaac saw something that made him stop. A figure crouched over a pile of garbage, hurriedly sifting through scraps. The movement was desperate, feverish. It wasn't unusual to find the homeless scavenging, but something about this one was different. The figure stood taller than any human woman he had ever seen, her lean, almost frail frame wrapped in what looked like patched-together cloth. But it wasn't her clothes that struck him. It was her skin, a shade of deep indigo, iridescent under the glow of the street lamp. Her hair was a cascade of silver tendrils, moving as though alive, reacting to her distress. And her eyes, large violet, filled with pain and hunger. She wasn't human. Isaac took a slow step forward, raising his hands in a gesture of peace. "Hey, I don't mean any harm," he said gently. The alien woman froze, her hands tightening over a half-rotten loaf of bread. Behind her, hidden beneath a tattered blanket, a small figure whimpered, a child. Isaac's breath hitched. A mother. She was scavenging for her child. His heart clenched. He knew desperation. He had seen it in the eyes of refugees, in the faces of those left behind when corporations abandon whole districts. But this was something else. "You're hungry," he said softly. "I can help." She bared her teeth, a sharp warning. "No trust," she rasped, her accent thick but understandable. Her voice had a melodic, layered quality, like two tones speaking at once. Isaac slowly pulled out a protein bar from his pocket, unwrapped it, and placed it on the ground before stepping back. The woman hesitated, then snatched it with clawed fingers, sniffing it before breaking a piece for her child. The little one, a miniature version of her, but with golden eyes, took it eagerly, munching in silence. Isaac crouched down to their level. "My name is Isaac," he said. "You have a name?" The woman hesitated before whispering, "Rheza." "Okay, Rheza," he said, keeping his tone calm. "You and your child can't stay out here. It's not safe. I know a place where you can rest and eat properly. Will you come with me?" She eyed him warily, her body coiled like a wounded animal ready to strike. But then, she looked at her child, at the way they clung to her, too weak to protest. With a deep, shuddering breath, Rheza gave a small nod. Isaac led them to his small, cramped apartment. It wasn't much, a dingy one-bedroom in a neglected part of the city, but it was warm and, more importantly, safe. He gave them clean blankets, set out food, and watched as Rheza and her child ate like starving creatures, which they were. As she finished her meal, Rheza glanced at him, eyes still filled with suspicion but softened by gratitude. "Why help?" she asked. Isaac exhaled, leaning against the wall. "Because I know what it's like to be alone with no one to turn to." She studied him in silence before finally nodding. Over the next few days, Isaac learned her story. Rheza and her child, Zirin, were survivors of a crashed refugee ship. Their people, the Varathians, had been driven from their home world by a war they hadn't started. The ruling corporations of New Avalon had refused to help, branding them illegal trespassers. Most of the Varathians who had landed in the city had been captured or killed. She and Zirin had been hiding, scavenging, barely surviving. Isaac listened, rage simmering beneath his skin. He had once worked for those same corporations, designing security tech used to hunt people like Rheza down. He had left when he realized what his inventions were being used for, but that guilt had never faded. He made a decision. "I'm getting you out of the city," he told her one evening. She blinked, tense. "How?" "I know people. There's a smuggler network that helps off-world refugees. I can get you to the outer colonies, where you'll be safe." Rheza hesitated, staring at Zirin, who was finally sleeping peacefully for the first time in weeks. "Trust is not easy," she admitted. "I know," Isaac said, "but I swear, I won't let anything happen to you." The escape wasn't easy. New Avalon was a city built on control. Every checkpoint, every scanner was designed to detect and eliminate illegal life forms. Getting Rheza and Zirin out required cunning, risk, and all the connections Isaac still had. He reached out to an old friend, Callum, a former smuggler who now ran an underground movement for displaced refugees. It took bribes, careful planning, and near heart-stopping close calls. But finally, they reached the spaceport. Just as they were about to board the transport ship, alarms blared. Security forces swarmed the dock. Someone had tipped them off. "Run!" Isaac shouted. Rheza grabbed Zirin and sprinted, her enhanced speed making her blur. Isaac fired a stolen pulse gun, taking down 2 guards, but more were coming. He turned, saw Rheza hesitating at the cargo bay doors. "Geo," he roared. She looked at him, really looked at him. A promise. A debt. And then she vanished into the ship. Isaac turned to fight, but was tackled to the ground before he could raise his weapon. The last thing he saw was the ship disappearing into the clouds. Isaac woke up in a prison cell. He had expected worse. Days passed, then weeks. One evening, the door to his cell opened. A shadow stepped inside. A woman, human, but with an aura of power that made the guards nervous. "Isaac Reese," she said, "you helped an alien fugitive escape." He stayed silent. She smiled. "You're lucky. Someone powerful called in a favor for you." Before he could ask what that meant, she tossed something onto the table. A small, violet crystal. A Varathian signal beacon. Isaac exhaled, a slow smile creeping onto his lips. Rheza had made it, and she hadn't forgotten him. Far beyond New Avalon, among the stars, a Varathian woman and her child stood on the deck of a refugee ship, gazing at the endless expanse of space. One day, she would return the favor. One day, she would come back for him, because debts, especially those of kindness, were never forgotten.